And welcome back to the United Stand. It is Monday morning in what is a huge week for Manchester United, and Erik ten Hag failed to win either of these games. I mean, the City game you assume is going to be a write-off, but going out of the Cup and then a heavy defeat against City away from home is going to really get people on Erik ten Hag's back. They're already on it, but it could be the nail going into the coffin. We've got loads to discuss this morning. What is a huge week for Manchester United. We're going to be discussing Dan Ashworth. The quicker we can get him in, the better. Sir Jim realises that we're going to pay a compensation fee. How much is that going to be and when's it going to happen? Also talks of sacking Erik ten Hag. The media are circulating. A lot of the fan base is starting to turn. Where do you sit on it? Where do I sit on it? And what do we have to do to ensure there is a plan in place? Because I'm not one of them people that thinks we just wait till the summer and not look at other options. If we are going to sack Ten Hag, then options need to be looked at. I don't want Ten Hag to be sacked, I want him to stay. But if we are going to, we've got to look at options, and what options could they be? Also a little bit on Mason Greenwood, on whether he's going to come back to the club or he's going to be permanently move away from the club. Also, some interesting comments about how Fulham targeted Manchester United and especially the defence in playing out from the back, which we could see, and how Ten Hag didn't really change things, and is that worrying? Also failed loans, Donny van der Beek and Jadon Sancho doing not very well on loan. I'm going to discuss that. Lack of leaders in the club, how Erik ten Hag has to play Ammad, and also I'm actually going to go through, if we have time, the United squad and be ruthless with it and say who stays, who gets one more year and who goes. And I think there's going to be very little players that end up in the stay category, because honestly probably just Højlund, Mainoo and Garnacho at this point, because it is getting ridiculous how inconsistent these players are and how often some of them turn their backs. I mean, when you've got Antonio Valencia coming out basically saying play for the badge no matter what, who's a captain of this club, it really does say something. But anyway, guys, let's get into the show and let's start off on Dan Ashworth. So, coming out from Fabrizio Romano, so we know it's super accurate. Manchester United are prepared to continue talks with Newcastle in the next days to agree on compensation for Dan Ashworth. Man United want Ashworth to be part of their project as soon as possible. Ineos will try again. Fabrizio saying this means that we're going to go for it. What it is right now is Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming out and saying, making a little joke about gardening leave, which I loved, by the way. We looked like a club that's not going to be taken for a ride when he came out of them comments saying he's super successful in his job, he shouldn't be doing his garden, we need to get him in as soon as possible. That it's just negotiation tactics. Newcastle saying you're going to have to pay us out 10 to 20 million. It's negotiation tactics. Why on earth would Newcastle leave someone in a job who was having problems there anyway? Remember the story that Sam from the United Stand brought out, that Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth weren't seeing eye to eye before Man United even came in for him. That relationship wasn't working out. Why would they keep someone on full pay on garden leave when they could get some sort of compensation fee? They just want to bleed Manchester United for as much money as possible, which is, fair enough to them. Like, if that's the way they're going to go about things, that's the way they're going to go about things. Like, he is under contract. But Sir Jim, Dave Brailsford, the Ineos team have to pay him out. I've said it multiple times, I don't want to go over the same thing, but they have to pay him out. Like, we have to. Look at the state that we're in. I think a lot of people are maybe going a little bit over the top with the Fulham loss, I'm going to be honest. Like, it was such a shambles of a performance, but it's not as if, people are acting like it's the end of the world. But what we can see is this recruitment isn't working. Anthony's been a failure. You look at Amrabat, he's been a failure, who I thought would actually be good. There's question marks over Onana. There's question marks over, Eriksen was good last season, but it was like a one-season hit, really. This season, he's just not been able to get there. I know it's a free transfer. Anthony he's been a Casemiro, really good last season, but this season it looks like he's going to get moved on. For the fee we paid, the wages on, is that a success? The recruitment is just Mason Mount. I know we've not been able to use him. Was he a priority, people say? I think Mason Mount's a good player, but we've not been able to see it. So it's just, and even, I know it's not Ten Hag's fault, but Malacia, great last season when he was coming in, you could see the potential in him. But we've not seen a peep out of him this season. I know it's injuries, but the recruitment isn't good. We have to get in. We have to get in Dan Ashworth as soon as possible going into the summer. Whether it is Ten Hag here, I think Ten Hag deserves the opportunity to work under this team at least the summer, to kind of give the opportunity to actually work under a proper structure. But even if it isn't Ten Hag, there has to be a sporting director in place a team in place that knows the structure of this club, knows the direction that we're going in, and we've got a clear pathway on what direction we want to go in, what are our priority targets, what are the attributes of players we're going for, what are the age ranges. I mean, no disrespect, but I've seen us being linked to Ross Barkley yesterday, and I thought, oh my word. By the way, he's doing brilliant for Luton. Could even be called up to England, doing brilliantly. But are Man United a mid-table club now? Why are we going for Ross Barkley at 30, how old is he? Oh, he's over 30 years old. Like, it just shouldn't be happening. We should be going for players between, early 20s up until 26, 27, getting them in the prime, like ready for a bit of longevity. Like, going for Ross Barkley is just the same thing we keep doing over and over again. He's good, but how long for? And where's the ceiling? It's just short-termism. We can't be doing it. And Dan Ashworth has to come into Manchester United, so compensation fee will be agreed in the next days, says Fabrizio Romano, and Ineos on the right track because they want Ashworth to be part of the project as soon as possible. Some people would say this is coming out because we've just had that loss against Fulham and they're trying to get a bit of positivity back in the fan base. If they are, then it's working, but from what we've seen so far with Sir Jim, things aren't usually put out there and them not happen. Unlike with the Glazers, we see all these reports about things going to happen and nothing's ever followed through. With Sir Jim, he's gone and got Omar Barada, which was huge for us. Dan Ashworth is coming to Manchester United. It's just a matter of time. Things do seem like they're moving quite quickly, so I expect Dan Ashworth to come into Manchester United. We've got a super chat in from Martin Saunders. Beth, you look stunning this morning. Thank you very much. I had a little personal training session this morning. I got up super early, got up at 5 a.m. and I feel a lot better for it. Starting the Monday right. And Martin Saunders says, Ten Hag-wise, not saying he is the guy for us, but replacing him will be disastrous and put us back years. Well, this is what I mean. A lot of people, can't see the future with Ten Hag. And even though I am Ten Hag in, I'm going to be honest, there's so much to criticise. The performances are shocking. His comments after a game are ridiculous. It's poor, but at the moment, what's keeping me in that bracket is not wanting to wipe the slate clean and start all over again, because I think people think there's like a light switch that you switch and a new manager comes in and suddenly we're going to be competing again. It won't happen. It won't happen. Any player that leaves this club, where do they end up going to? What do they end up doing? We don't have a good enough set of players. People talk about, Ten Hag should be competing at the top level. Does anyone think any of our players are wanted by top teams? Any of them, really? They're not. There's Ten Hag's not doing well. He's not, and there's a lot of problems. But the state of our squad, people think a new manager comes in and suddenly things start working, and it won't happen. And that's why I think Ten Hag for the last 18 months, okay, this season has been proper poor, but let's at least give him a chance under a new structure. That's my opinion. But I appreciate people's opinions that don't think he's good enough. But get your opinions down in the chat. But that's it on Dan Ashworth. That's the update. I don't want to drag on too long on it. I want to move on to a different topic now. A topic that really kind of is a debate within the fan base. I mean, logging onto Twitter over the weekend, I don't know if anyone had like a shield and a sword, but it literally is like a war zone on there right now. United fans going for each other left, right and centre. I try not to get involved. People keep coming for me. It is what it is. People are annoyed about Manchester United, and because we love the club and we just want them to do well, behind every United fan, no matter how your opinion is, if you're Ten Hag in, if you're Ten Hag out, if you're, Bruno and Rashford out or Bruno and Rashford in or whatever you are, ultimately, I would like to think that the majority of Man United fans at their heart and at their core just want what's best for the club, and that's what they think. It's just difference of opinions. But people are getting very, very aggravated, and United, it is frustrating. But there is a big conversation about whether Ten Hag will still be in a job this summer. I've explained to you my reasoning behind it. I think he's massively underperformed this season. I do think we overperformed last season. But the main thing that comes down to, for me, is stubbornness with Ten Hag. That's what the worrying factor is. Keeps doing the same thing over and over again. It's not working. The way that our forward players press and our midfielders press, we've basically got 7 up front, a huge gap in midfield, and then Varane and Maguire at the back. It's not working. I don't know if that's the plan is laid out or the players just can't fulfill it, but we are getting cut through like a knife through butter. The amount of shots we keep conceding game after game after game, and Ten Hag will see all this, and he keeps persisting with the same style of football. it's just not working. I don't know if he's not got the right players. I don't know if he's not got the right profiles. You know, I'm not a qualified coach with all my badges, but I'm a football fan, and I can see when there's 7 players in a line up front, a huge gap in midfield, and all the other team needs to do is go man to man and shut down the passing lanes, and we lose the ball instantly because our players are sloppy and they're not precise and not. You know, we've got a few players that are actually great technically on the ball. Mainu's one that stands out as being, but a lot of players aren't. Not press resistant. You're going to lose the ball. You've got 7 players up front, and our defence is absolutely, like, it's not their fault. It's not their fault. There's no one there to help them out. So the style of football, the way we keep persisting with something that's just not working, is a concern for me. Certain decisions that Ten Hag makes, for example, not giving Ammad more minutes. I mean, this is just an example. I don't get it. He came on the other night and looked sharp. He looked good. Like Ricky said, it can't get any worse. Some of his decisions on substitutions baffle me. But I have seen glimmers with Ten Hag when we had our full strength team back at the start of this year, and it's only glimmers of what you can see he's trying to do. And there is some positives, bringing Manu through, you know, Garnacho, Højlund, building that young core. And we've got a lot of toxicity. I also think another big reason as to why we're so poor is because we've got a lack of leadership within the squad, huge lack of leadership, and players with calmness and composure. So there's a lot of things, but ultimately with Ten Hag, like I've said, I don't want to repeat myself, but I would give him the summer under a new recruitment, because his recruitment isn't good enough as a whole. But I don't think the manager should be purely responsible for being a coach, sporting director, you know, all these roles that he's had to do up till now, because we're absolutely hopeless behind the scenes. Give him a proper structure, give him next season, see how it goes. If it's still poor, then get rid. That's my kind of opinion on it. I don't want to start the cycle again. But for people that do want a new manager, and to be honest, you know, Sir Jim hasn't fully backed Erik Ten Hag. Like, he hasn't. You can tell there are question marks there. Because if they were certain that they were moving forward with Erik Ten Hag as their man, they would have come out and they would have made it clear. They've not. He's got asked about Ten Hag quite a few times, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's been quite political. He's addressed the truth, which is there's more problems than the manager behind the scenes, as in there's like it starts right at the top and we need to get rid of all them problems because multiple managers have failed. He said that. He understands that. We've also been told that what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing and Dave Brailsford and Ineos is working their way down the top from the bottom, surveying everyone and kind of making their evaluations. And they've started at the top, Omar Barada, they're going to sporting director, and they will work their way down to Ten Hag and do an evaluation and think of whether he is good enough in that role to continue at Manchester United. They will do that. They're not at that point yet because they've got to start from the top and work down from the bottom. We've said this for so long. It is horrible at the core, at the top, and it simmers down. And we've not got a good enough team behind the scenes. We know that. So he's not come out and fully backed Ten Hag. And I tell you something, Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe watching that football, they won't be thinking this is how we want to play with Man United. Maybe they can see with Ten Hag, like, you know, certain people that are still Ten Hag in, they can see what we see is long-term vision, the recruitment's been poor, and maybe, you know, give him a chance. But they might not. They might want to go with their own man. They might see this as an opportunity. Ten Hag's doing really quite poorly this season. You know, he's not got all the fan base behind him still. He's got a lot of the fan base still, I think. He's got the majority, but he's not got the whole fan base. And there wouldn't be a huge uproar if they did make a decision at the end of the season, I don't think. I think the majority of people are Ten Hag in. Like, this is just from what I've seen, and I know, like, online I would say it's getting a little bit more towards Ten Hag out, but I still say it's mainly Ten Hag in. But when I'm at the match, I know there's people that go to the match online as well. When I'm at the match and I'm speaking to people, I'm hearing people, a lot of people going in on these players and saying, you know, these players, like, they're just done with a lot of them. And they want to give Ten Hag a chance purely because they're sick of the manager cycle, the same way a lot of us are as well. But it'll be interesting. What they could do is they could move to a new manager. And the one thing I would say is, I don't like talking about getting a new manager now within the fan base and within the press, within the media, because at the end of the day, we are in a dogfight for Champions League football. Champions League football, benefits Manchester United massively, no matter who the manager is. I don't want Champions League football because I want Ten Hag to stay in a job and Ten Hag, I'm pro Ten Hag. I'm not Player FC, I'm not Manager FC, I'm Man United. And at the end of the day, whoever's the manager in the summer, I want it to be Ten Hag, but whoever it is, they need money because this squad is nowhere near up to it. To get us money in the summer, we need Champions League football. I keep hearing people say, oh, you know, why are you even bothered about Champions League football? United are never going to win it anyway. They can't even get through the group. And I'm like, because we need money. Financial fair play is an issue for us. We need money. That's why I want to get into the Champions League. Of course, I want to go to Old Trafford under the Champions League nights, but I'm thinking about the squad and investing in the squad. That's the first and foremost thing. So we are in a dogfight for top four. We're not out of the race. We've had a setback against Fulham. Ten Hag, like what he was right, is every game's a cup final. We've had a setback. What good is it for us now talking about new managers in the fan base and in the media when Ten Hag is the manager and he will be the manager until the end of the season, whether he's an interim or if he's not an interim, he will be before they make a decision. What's the point? We need to get behind this team and manager, whether they're frustrating us or not, because we need Champions League football. But what I will say, and there's a difference in this, like I said, I don't think it should be all in the press and plastered everywhere. But if Sir Jim and Sir Dave Brailsford are thinking about going for a new manager, they absolutely should be looking at them options now. You can't wait until the summer. If you know you're going to sack Ten Hag, you can't wait until the summer because there's multiple clubs in for managers. There's Liverpool, there's Barcelona. You know, there's clubs that are going to be in for managers, and Man United should be evaluating that. My personal preference, like I said, I don't want to speak about it loads because I'm still behind Ten Hag and I am until the end of the season. But my personal preference is I don't think, considering how I rate Ten Hag, I don't think there's any managers out there that excite me massively. The only two managers that I'd be okay for going for in the summer, if we did get rid of Ten Hag, that would give me some excitement would be either Nagelsmann or De Zerbi. They're the only two. And even them two are huge risks. Like Brighton go through bad spells of results. He changes his team too much, in my opinion, and it's a big risk. Nagelsmann is, I think, a really exciting young up-and-coming coach, but he's not reached the heights that I thought he would have done. Like, there are big risks in both of their managers. But I look at the market, people keep saying Hansi Flick, I'm personally not a fan. I think Ten Hag, based on what I thought of him when he came in at Manchester United and his track history before that, he would be the guy to move forward with for me. But I understand why a lot of United fans are doubting him because the football this season has been horrific and we are not seeing what we thought we would see when he came through the door. I think that's down to the structure and the way the club's been run terribly. And Ten Hag does have to take some responsibility. Of course he does. He should be doing better. But I would give him the chance. But if they are looking at getting a new manager, which I think they will be, like I think they'll be weighing up both options because they've not committed to Ten Hag. And Ten Hag will probably read between the lines and know that. They need to be looking at it now because it's going to be, we've got enough to do in terms of getting players in the summer. This squad needs good recruitment. The last thing we need to be doing is messing about and not having a manager in and then not having time to work on the manager's targets. So that's kind of my opinion on that. But I do think it would be a mistake to get rid of Ten Hag, I'm going to be honest. And I know a lot of people don't think it would be and people want him to go, but I think it would be a mistake. I think I can see slight signs, and I think patience is a virtue nowadays. I really do. I think a lot of people don't want to be patient, but I get the standards at Manchester United should be high. I get where people come from. Mark Landridge says, the problem, 7 up top, they will not be coached to do that ever. Bruno is not meant to close the first man, and because he does, it leaves holes. Why doesn't Ten Hag sub in them? I don't agree with that. I think it is an instruction. I do. I just think it's working terribly. Or the players just aren't executing it properly. But, I mean, can Ten Hag not get the message across that, is that what it is? Are the players just incapable? Like, at the end of the day, we're talking about running here. It's a bit of intelligence. Like, we're not talking about technical ability on a football. Mark Landry says, now Rashford walking leaves gaps over the pitch. Golden rule of football is no matter how hard you attack, you defend twice as hard with pride. Now, Mark, that's what I agree with. You know, people were calling me out over my Rashford and saying Rashford had no effort, I stand by it. Rashford did have no effort. I went to the game and I watched him. It was embarrassing, like genuinely. And I'm a big fan of Rashford. I think he's talented, but so many fans in that ground were fuming and saying that when it's people kept tweeting me this, when it's Højlund it's lack of service, when it's Rashford it's lack of effort. I felt like saying, go like, are you watching this football? Like Højlund gives everything. He comes off the pitch, his jersey's filled with mud and grass stains. He's running, he's sprinting. He gives everything, he's physical. Rashford was strolling about, only decided to sprint after the 90th minute and never pressed properly, never tracked. The first time he did do a proper close down and press, Leno ended up kicking it out and we got further up the pitch. It was a really poor performance from him. Again, not scapegoating. If Rashford hadn't have played, we probably still would have lost that game. It's not on one player. It's not on one player, but if one player's not doing the work, it does make a difference in the system across the whole pitch. But it's not just him. It really isn't. The whole system just isn't working, and that is a managerial thing. Whether it's the players not being able to execute it, but Ten Hag, he's responsible for setting out the team and how they should play. Sherlock says, can anyone please try to explain Erik Ten Hag's comments after Fulham game? Players shown big personality and character in both halves. Going to talk about that. I think it's just a load of rubbish, to be honest. Trey Warren says, the problem is we're so reactionary. Do we forget all that he won us for the first title in 6 years? Come on. Exactly, Carabao Cup. I mean, Jurgen Klopp saying it's better than in his Champions League yesterday. Obviously, by the way, I hate to say it because obviously I don't like Liverpool, I'm a United fan through and through, but what Jurgen Klopp did with that Liverpool side yesterday was extraordinary. And Chelsea should be seriously embarrassed, like genuinely. One thing I would say is, like, people might not be fancying Ten Hag right now, but thank the Lord we didn't go for Poch because that was our other option, and he is a terrible manager from what I can see. And people say Chelsea miss chances, but being that soft that you allow your team playing against Van Dijk and the under-16s in extra time to sit off and hope for penalties. The in-game management was so bad. The subs, like, I'm not talking. It's not United, but it was bad. It was really bad, and it was. Oh God, Poch is not a good manager in my opinion. I don't get anyone who thinks he is, genuinely. And I actually got a flashback on my Snapchat memories this morning of all the pictures of me at the Carabao Cup final and with my friends that I always go to Old Trafford with and that I've made over the years, and us smiling and the videos of the players lifting the trophy, and I thought, wow, what a difference a year makes. The vibe now is nowhere near that. It doesn't seem like there's that sort of togetherness that was there then. The fan base is up in arms. It's crazy, it really is, and people are quick to forget them moments. But I want to talk a little bit about what concerned me as well is Marco Silva. I actually respect him as a manager. But in this game, Ian Wright made some comments, and I actually looked back and I was watching through the game based off the Ian Wright comments and watching through some of the highlights, and he's right. He said how Fulham targeted us and they targeted Varane, and I'm not saying Varane's at fault, but they targeted us playing out from the back. So this is what Ian Wright had to say. He said, I tell you who you could hear a couple of groans at, but Varane, I could see that Fulham targeted Varane. They marked up everybody in the midfield, a man-to-man approach. Like I said, we fall into that trap of multiple times, and only gave him one pass back inside to Harry Maguire, and he took so long to get control down and give it to Casemiro, and then he got caught on it and Fulham went again. It was like they were unorganised. There is going to be some more defeats for Manchester United this season, and I think Varane's been good over his last, he's been quite, a lot of people call Varane injury prone. He's been pretty reliable in 2024, and since I can remember, to be honest, he's been quite reliable, and I think a lot of his performances gone under the radar. I thought against Luton he was good, and I think he's been good, solid defensively, and I'm not saying anything about, Varane's ability defensively or Maguire's ability defensively, but the issue is when we're playing that sort of football where there's just gaping holes everywhere, and our players aren't the type of players that come and receive the ball on the turn and then carry the ball out from the midfield forward. That's why Ten Hag wanted Frankie de Jong so much. We don't have anyone who can do it. The closest we have to that is Mainu. Mainu's good on the ball. But like they said, they were using a man-to-man approach. When you just leave Varane and Maguire to pass it between themselves and you're marking up everybody else on the pitch, United struggle to get it out. And it happened time and time again because we don't have someone like a Martinez who can thread the balls through the lines. Can Harry Maguire do a great sweeping pass over to the left-hand side, a long ball? Yes, he can. He's fantastic at them. Is Varane good on both feet? Yeah, he can, but he can't see the passes through the lines. Neither can Maguire. So we were struggling, and it's like Man United have a plan A and then nothing else. And you could see that when you're in the game, and the fact Ten Hag couldn't do anything in the game to change it was a worry to me. Like, that was a worry. And Ian's right when he said that. Like, Fulham knew where to target us. They knew that we'd end up giving the ball away if they marked us man-to-man because Harry Maguire and Varane would get it to someone. They just instantly press. We're not press resistant. They win the ball back. That's why they had the amount of possession they had. That's why we got caught cold so many times. And our team's so far high up the pitch, we have no one tracking back to defend. That's why we're conceding so many shots. That's why we're conceding so many chances. So it's just like the whole team just wasn't good enough. And that structural thing there, where Marco Silva was targeting us and it worked, it happened throughout the whole game. It really did. And then if you want to play long ball, which is, if you do want to play long ball, we don't have anyone up there who can get it. I mean, Højlund is an outlet. Rashford's never going to jump and win you an header, even though he's tall. He's just not in his locker. I kept seeing, Onana try and spread it out to Garnacho, to be fair. If Garnacho's getting marked man-to-man, he's not going to win it in the air. I don't expect him to. He's a tricky winger. It's just not going to happen. So we can't get the ball through the midfield, and it's because Bruno's too high up. Yes, it's because we're getting marked man-to-man, and we don't have centre-backs that can thread balls through the lines or anyone who can carry the ball out of the midfield. There's multiple reasons for it, but it worked, and fair play to them. And being able to make these tweaks, it's a sign of a really good manager, and we couldn't do that in the game. But to be fair to Ten Hag, he's missing a lot of his key players. He's missing Martinez. He's missing Højlund, who's the target for a long ball. We did try, to be fair. Onana was trying that ball over the top to Bruno, and that worked a few times with Bruno's flick on to Garnacho, but there wasn't enough. There wasn't a clear sense of direction, and that was a problem for us. Ten Hag, quickly on Højlund, said, we are happy to bring Rasmus in, because he got asked about him. He said, we are happy to bring Rasmus in because if I saw the striker options and the available striker options, there was a really shortage in good options. We are very happy to sign Højlund. He's a player to the level of Man United. I wanted to bring that quote in because he's one of the only ones that is. He's only the only ones that is level of a United player, going to be completely honest. So Ten Hag, that is something he's definitely right on. But get your comments in the chat, how you guys are feeling. I'm enjoying the show. Getting a lot off my chest and having a good conversation with you guys. Lee says, hi Beth, great show. You see any leader leads by example. Anyone saying Bruno is a good leader is daft. He shouts when the younger players make mistakes, but he's so mistake prone, it baffles me. Wayne Jones says, would you do a Gary Lineker if United win the treble? When Leicester won the Premiership. I mean, if United win the treble, I don't know what you'd see me doing. Genuinely, I'd be doing a Jack Grealish on us all. Honestly, it's just, couldn't even imagine it. We're that far off. One thing I would say on Bruno, I've been a massive fan of Bruno for a long time. I've started to think about the leadership thing, and I don't want to jump ships because I still think Bruno is a leader, and I think he's been poor this season, but I do think he's a very good player. That's not been playing well. But what I will say, and again, it pains me to say it and I hate to say it, a big eye-opener for me was watching that Liverpool game yesterday. I hate to say it, I'm a United fan, but I've got to call it how I see it. Van Dijk is the embodiment of what a captain should be. He's leading them kids out. He's leading by example. You can see him talking on the pitch, but calmly, composed. Very vocal, scores not only one but 2 goals. I thought the first one should have been given, to be honest with you, but then the second one in the last few minutes of the game to go and win that trophy for your team, that's an example of a leader. And this is what I'm saying is, of course Bruno's going to bear the brunt of it because he's captain. and that should happen. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have enough leaders in that team. We don't have enough leaders that are calm and composed either. Like, for example, I completely am on board. I think Casemiro's a leader. I think Casemiro sets the example in training every single day. Of course he does. Everyone talks about his experience and how professional he is. But on the pitch, he's not calm or composed. We don't have that attribute in our squad. We have no one that's calm or composed as a leader. Casemiro's had to get taken off because of a few yellows. Okay, he was targeted, but even his passing sometimes, it's sloppy and it puts us under pressure. I think he's a very good player, by the way. He's just not got the attribute of calm or composed. Bruno is not calm or composed. He has the headless chicken vibes. Like, he gives everything for the badge, and I completely think he's got the best intention of the club at heart, but he does go headless chicken mode. He's not calm and composed. He's just not. And he does lose his head. You know, the only person I would say that is calm and composed, that is a leader on the pitch, is Varane. And we're getting rid of him in the summer, so it's tough. You know, Rashford's not a leader. Garnacho's only a kid. Mainu is calm and composed, but he's only just come into the team, like he's 18 years old. Diallo, I would say, is a leader, to be fair, at right back. He's a leader. Martinez, when he plays, is obviously a leader. I think Maguire's been better as a leader since he's dropped the captaincy armband. But we have no one in that team that is top level, calm, composed, knows what it takes to win, and is a top leader. We lack it. And it's obvious by our results, by the way we can't keep a consistent run going, the way we concede, the stupid mistakes we make. Like, Bruno does come into that category. The way he took that corner and then took a shot against Luton and they nearly scored off it, it's just not acceptable as a leader at Manchester United. There's multiple things this season that we've seen, so we are missing massive leadership in that team, and calmness and composure, and people that know what it takes to win. And that's a problem. That is a big problem for us. But next, we're getting your comments on that, but we need to sign personalities and characters that can take you over the line, that are captains that can win you games. And I also think as well, not only that, having someone who can score you goals consistently, especially like a centre-back, who can score you consistent goals off corners and set pieces, is such a get-out-of-jail-free card and such a weapon to have in your armour. Of course, we've got to actually get a good corner and a good set piece in, because we struggle to do that half the time. We can't even beat the first man. But look at Gabriel for Arsenal, Van Dijk for Liverpool. It's such a weapon. Like, if you're struggling, you always know you've got that outlet. Casemiro's good off set pieces, to be fair, but we need more of that in our team, massively. Need more of it. But next, I want to move on to the next bit of the show, because I really want to kind of go onto the squad and say who I'd get rid of and who I'd keep, and I want to have time for that. But next bit of the show is, oh yeah, actually no, I wanted to quickly touch on Mason Greenwood. I forgot about that. So Mark touched on it last night. I just want to have my say on it. Mason Greenwood. So Romano and Greenwood, what I can tell you is that the feeling internally at Man United right now is that they will cash in on Mason Greenwood. I mean, we all knew that Sir Jim Answer was a political one. I know there's people that want him back. I know there's people that never want him to step foot near the club ever again. To be honest with you, I don't understand why he'd want to come back. I don't get it, why he'd even want to. United shouldn't be bringing him back. It'd completely disrupt the team. It completely disrupts anything that we have started to build. It would become, you know, the headlines, the hate, the team having to deal with that, the questions in interviews, in press conferences, everything. It just shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't happen. He shouldn't be back at the club, and he shouldn't want to. If he came back, there'd be absolute uproar. There'd be outcry. Because in the court of public opinion, people have made a judgment, and that's just the way it is, whether you agree with that or not. And away fans, I mean, Fulham fans were singing it, and he's not even here at the game at Old Trafford. Away, it would be terrible. It would be a huge detriment to the team. And if he's got an opportunity, if Barcelona genuinely actually want Mason Greenwood, and he's, you know, got a decent reception over in Spain, why would you want to come back here and face the abuse and hatred that will happen? Like, it will happen. And God forbid he even put in a bad performance. Like, then it'd go seriously bad. But even, it'd just be abuse, constant abuse. If Barcelona are a very good team, okay, yeah, they're on the rocks now, but if they want him, start a clean slate and start over your career in Spain. Like, that's what you should want to do, and the club should cash in my opinion as well. And people say, you know, your Man United shouldn't even take any money from that transfer. Hang on a second. At the end of the day, it's not as if he's not been charged for anything. Like, he's not. Man United have put in multiple, you know, he's putting so much money into Greenwood's career. He was at the club since he was like 6 at the academy. They've invested in him. He's an asset to Man United. If you can get 40-50 million, that should be going into our budget for the summer. Like, that's like the least that can happen, because, you know, you get that money, it's pure profit, and we can invest it. And we need the money. Financial fair play is tough for us. We need the money, we need the investment. So for me, it's a no-brainer that he goes and we get the money for it. Sherlock says, injury is an excuse, is fine if opponents were City, Liverpool, not against Bournemouth, Fulham, Copenhagen, Galatasaray. Any team United should beat them. Issue is clear the lack of tactics by Ten Hag. Well, this is another thing as well. I don't know if any of you guys know the European lad on Twitter, but I asked him his opinion on Ten Hag at United, because obviously, you know, he's a big Ajax fan. He watched Ten Hag for when he had his best stint of his managerial career. You know, it was prime Ten Hag ball, and that's why we wanted him. So I asked him what he thought about Ten Hag at United, and I got this response. So far, I would rate his time at Manchester United as very much a failure. You are Manchester United. You shouldn't be able to get dominated week in, week out, no matter who it is, which is happening. And that's true. Like, Fulham were dominating, Luton dominated us in parts. Like, he's right in that sense. Like, we do get dominated in big spells of games. He says, even in those small periods where you get results, the performances remain very bad. I think the job is too big for him, and I don't think he's capable. So that's an Ajax fan who saw Ten Hag's best years at Ajax, and he was brilliant for Ajax. So I just thought I'd bring in a different sort of opinion there to the show. Scott Mack says, it looks to me like Mason is enjoying life in Spain. Exactly. It's best for both parties, in my opinion, honestly. It just is. And it's when he's finally left the club, we don't have to speak about it again, do we? So, but I want to talk about the failed loans, and this is an issue for Manchester United, and this is where I go back to. Anyone who leaves Manchester United doesn't end up doing well at a top club. It just doesn't happen. Name me the last person who did. Please. It just doesn't happen. If anything, they go to clubs that are nowhere near our stature and flop. And it's like, why do you think Man United are so poor? Like, we're trying to compete at the top level with a team that's not at the top level. So these are just two examples. Donny van de Beek, who everyone said should be starting ahead of Bruno, like, not everyone, but a lot of people were saying he should be starting ahead of Bruno. A lot of people wanted him to start games. I initially did when he first came in, but I let that go a long time ago. By the way, Donny van de Beek, lovely person, great guy. I've met him before, lovely person. But just not good enough to play for United, in my opinion, anymore. We probably ruined his career. We never should have signed him. He was a good player when he first came in. I acknowledge all that. But, so, he's on loan at Frankfurt. I read this article this morning. Van der Beek produced another uninspiring display in Frankfurt's 2-2 draw with Wolfsburg. He hadn't started the last 3 games for Frankfurt. He started this game, but apparently he failed to repay the faith of his manager as he couldn't make an impact and was replaced after just the hour mark. Van der Beek had 36 touches in the game and a pass accuracy of 83%, and just talking about his stats there. He missed the last 3 fixtures, but obviously he got started and he got taken off after an hour. I saw, like, a couple of weeks ago, he came on because someone got injured in, like, the 20th minute, and then he got subbed in, like, the 80th minute or something like that. Like, that doesn't show a lot, does it? And then they would go on to say Frankfurt have the option to make this move permanent in the summer, but it looks unlikely. So Van der Beek's going to end up coming back to Carrington in the summer, and it's like, I feel sorry for the guy. And it just shows, like, a lot of people saying he should be starting for United. He can't even play a good game for Frankfurt. No disrespect to Frankfurt, they're a decent side, but United Frankfurt, like, come on. And he's not the only one. You know, Jadon Sancho's not hit the heights we thought he would at Dortmund. It's not quite the same worry because obviously the age and stuff like that, but Jadon Sancho, this was from a report this morning, Jadon Sancho played on the left wing in Dortmund's midweek draw against PSV. I watched a lot of that game. I had it on at the same time as I had the Milan game on, and I thought Sancho was really poor, to be honest. So the manager tried to switch it up and changed it around. Sancho was selected in their loss against Hoffenheim, their 3-2 loss. He was selected on the right wing at their game at home against Hoffenheim on Sunday. They led at half-time but lost the game 3-2. Sancho was substituted in the 75th minute with his team trailing. German outlet De Western, so this is the German media, reported after the game that there was a growing frustration among Dortmund fans on social media with Sancho. The report reads, Dortmund was so happy when Jadon Sancho was brought back during the last winter of the transfer period. The prodigal son is finally back. He really sent the fans into a state of euphoria. A few weeks later, and there is no sign of it anymore. They were disappointed once again, with the Dortmund star showing another poor performance against Hoffenheim and was probably the worst player on the pitch. I didn't watch the game, so I can't comment on that. But, like, Van der Beek's loan's failing. So for what I can read about Sancho and what I've seen, his loan's failing. And honestly, if you send a lot of our players out, we won't do it. But if you could send half our squad out to different teams around Europe, and none of them would be pulling up trees. I can guarantee it. And this is the issue we're in. Like, the squad isn't good enough, and people just want to blame the manager every time. Our recruitment has been shocking for years. Like, the squad is not good enough, and the manager isn't hitting the heights he should. And my dad was saying to me at the weekend, like, he thinks Ten Hag deserves to be put under scrutiny alone based on the Antony signing. And I turned around to my dad and I said, well, signings can go wrong all the time. Like, you know, Klopp's had a couple poor ones, like Minamino, Naby Keita, like they never really went on. Like, Arsenal had Pepe. Like, there's been signings that haven't worked out. Like, every manager can have a poor signing every now and again. And he went, no, Beth, the difference with this, which makes it worse, is that he watched Antony, he coached Antony before he brought him to Manchester United, and he still thought he was worth, like, wanted to pull the trigger on 80 million. Like, that is scary. And I had to kind of take on board that point and think, yeah, that is frustrating. So Ten Hag's recruitment hasn't been good, I acknowledge that, but our recruitment as a whole has been poor over the years, and this squad is not at the level that people think it is, and we need to be ruthless. We need to be ruthless with it. We have Sherlock gifted 10 United Stand memberships. What a legend. So everyone say thank you to Sherlock for that. But yeah, a lot of people liking my dad's take on the Antony thing. I found it very interesting. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah. Also, lastly, before I go through and rank this squad now, what I've been waiting for since the start of the show, I want to mention one thing. If Ten Hag doesn't start Ammad on Wednesday, I'll be pulling my hair out. I give the benefit of the doubt at the weekend because, you know, we've got back an academy player in Amari Forson. I thought he did okay. Like, he's only young, he's coming through. It's a hard game to come into. It really is. You've not even got a proper striker playing with you. But he has to play Ammad. Ammad came on and you could see there was sharpness, there was glimmers there. We've seen it. We've seen it with Ammad. He deserves an opportunity. If he plays Bruno on the right, I'll lose my head because Bruno's not a right winger. He's just not. Like, Ammad is a better right winger than Bruno. He just is. I'm not saying Ammad's a better player than Bruno because at the moment I don't think he is. But Bruno is a centre midfielder. He's not a right winger. He can play there, he can fill in, but starting Bruno there over Ammad would be silly. We need someone with a bit of flair, someone that can beat a man, you know, can get it into the box, has a bit of vision. Ammad needs to play. If he starts Forson there, like, okay, I'll back it. But I think Ammad had a bit more of an impact when he came on than what Forson did when he played. So personally, I think just Ammad's a bit more experienced. So I would go for Ammad, and I just think he's high up in the pecking order. I still want Forson to do really well, by the way, and you know, you can't fault him for the game at the weekend. But if he doesn't play him, I'll just think it's pure stubbornness, which is something I've criticised Ten Hag for before. It would be pure stubbornness. I think he's got to do it, and I think he subbed him on too late in the Fulham game as well. But anyway, that's my opinion on that, and I wanted to say it on here because if he doesn't start him, I'll be calling it out, like I really will. I don't see any excuse as to why he can't do it. I don't see an excuse. Bruno isn't a right winger. Forson, you know, didn't really pull up trees when he started the game. Like, start Ammad. Just give him a chance. And we need to, especially against Forest, like, with the players they have, like, I think Ammad would suit that game. But anyway, let's move on to the bit we've all been waiting for. Well, I've been waiting for anyway, because I want a little bit of fun on this Monday morning. Let me get it up. And you guys, play along with me, please, in the comments, and come along on this journey with me, because I'm going to be brutal. I say this, I've not even thought about it, by the way. I've literally just got the squad list up, and I'm going to go through. Some of you are going to say, keep, get rid, or one more year to decide. That's what I'm going to go about this. I'm not doing loans or anything. I'm doing keep, sell, or one more year. And I'm going to be brutal. And by the way, just a disclaimer, if anyone clips this up in a few months' time and one of these players is doing really well and you said, well, Beth, you said you'd get rid of them. This is my opinion in this moment. Opinions can change. Shock horror, by the way, in 2024, most of Twitter don't understand this. Opinions can change. That happens in life. So this is where I'm at now. But anyway, so starting off with, we're going to, if someone said polls or chat, we're just going to do it in the chat because I'm going to be going quickly. I don't think we have the time to go through a poll one by one, and there's some players that don't really need a poll. So I'm starting off with Bayern Day. For me, it's a keep. Like, he's a second choice keeper. Not really seen much of him. It would be very harsh to say go. So to say go. So Altay Bayern Day is a keep for me. Tom Heaton, he's all right as a third choice kind of Lee Grant. Not really got any qualms of him staying as a third choice, but I don't really have an opinion on it. He could go, we can stay, don't mind. Andre Onana, for me, right, this is an interesting one. Andre Onana, keep, sell, one more year. For me, it's a keep. I think a lot of people would be one more year on this, but for me, it's a keep. I'm not at the stage where it's one more year. Again, I thought it was a solid performance versus Fulham. I think he's improving. I think his adaptation to the Premier League and being Man United's number one is huge for a lot of players. We've seen players come in before and they've struggled to adapt. So I would keep him. In the chat, there's a mixture of keep, sell and one more year. And I understand that. I assume there'd be a mixed response. But for me, Andre Onana is a keep. So now we move on to Diogo Dalot. Diogo Dalot for me is a keep. One of the only senior players that I'm looking to keep. I think he's got the right mentality, he's got the right attitude, he's got passion, he's got desire, and of course you can't just build a team off that, but it gets you started. Mentality is huge, professionalism huge, and his consistency and the way he's on the ball and just his overall play is improved. It just keeps improving. He's still young, so for me, Dalot is a keep. Moving on to Johnny Evans, bless him. A lot of people think he should get one more year. For me, you know, he's been probably one of our best centre-backs this year, and that says a lot, but I would get rid, because I don't think we should be offering him another deal in the summer. I think we should be looking to get a younger centre-back in for the future, so I would get rid. He should retire, enjoy his retirement. Next up, we have Willy Kambwala, keep, personally, just purely because he's young and he's got potential, so I would keep Willy Kambwala for that reason. Next up, we have Victor Lindelof. Get rid. And again, this sounds harsh, but I'm just being brutally honest. It's not top level. It's not top level. Get rid. Like, I'm not being sentimental on this. Harry Maguire, get rid. Wouldn't keep Maguire. He's had a really good spell this season. He's improved massively. Again, I thought he had a good game against Fulham in terms defensively, and then coming up with that goal and trying to make things happen. But we can cash in on him. He needs to be sold. Next up, this is going to be an interesting one. Tyrell Malacia. What would you guys do with Tyrell Malacia? Okay, so this is another one for me where it's one more year. Tyrell Malacia is my first one more year on the list. It's one more year because when I saw him last season, defensively, he looked really good. Like, he locked down Salah, he locked down Mahrez. But injury is a huge concern for me. We've not even seen him this season. And going forward, I don't think he offered much. And people think he's young. He's a year older than Dalot, you know. Like, I think he's 25. So he's not that young. So for me, Malacia is a one more year. Let's see what he can do next year when he's not got an injury, because this year's kind of been a write-off for him. Lisandro Martinez, it's the easiest keep ever. Like, he is someone that is good enough to be a United player. Of course, he's a keep. Luke Shaw. Well, Luke Shaw. This is going to be a controversial one. Luke Shaw, for me, is one more year. You have seen me say on this chat multiple times that I think Luke Shaw's one of the best left backs in Europe and one of the best in the league. And I believe talent-wise and ability-wise he is. But injuries are a huge concern. If we keep him one more year and these injuries crop up again and he's again not being able to play consistently, then I'd be looking to move him on because you've got to be available. But I would keep him for one more year because I just think he's too good. And I think he's got a good mentality as well. Raphael Varane. Right, Raphael Varane. By the way, I think Varane is a top player. I think he's been disrespected a lot by other fan bases that aren't United. I think he's been underrated. But Varane's another one that I get rid in the summer, just purely because of the wages and the direction we're going in. You know, he's on probably the wrong side of 30 now, and I want to be investing in that in the centre-back department in the summer. So for me, Varane would be a get rid. Aaron Wan-Bissaka. You guys aren't going to like this because I know the community loves Wan-Bissaka, but Aaron Wan-Bissaka is another one where I'd be happy to see him go if we got decent money for him. This is going to be harsh. I've said it's going to be harsh. Is he going to be a fullback that's going to be playing at the top level for you? Can you see that potential in him? Has he got the ceiling to play at the highest level? No. He's great one-on-one defender, but he's not got enough. He's not got enough for the top level. So for me, Wan-Bissaka goes. Next up, we're on to midfielders now. Ammad Diallo. Ammad Diallo for me is one more year. He would be a keep, but I've not seen enough of him, to be honest, because Ten Hag never bloody plays him. So I want him to get more game time, and for me it'd be a keep, and one more year probably to just see him more, because I've genuinely not seen him enough at United to know if he can hit the heights. What I've seen at him on loan, what I've seen at him when he comes off the bench, very small glimmers. I think he's good enough, and I think he's got potential. But for me, one more year for Ammad, just because I've not seen him enough. Sorry for Amrabat. People always send me the clip of me saying Amrabat's going to be a difference this year and how good I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be, but I think, again, the board have to take a big responsibility of not getting him in until literally the last couple hours of the transfer window, on an injury, no pre-season, couldn't settle in. We started the season terribly, comes into a terrible side, then he starts playing full-back. He was never given a proper opportunity, Amrabat. And I still think there's a good player there, I really do. But you need time to adjust to the Premier League. You need a pre-season, especially when you've never played English football before. I feel for the guy. I really do, because he did everything to come here, and I think he's better than what he's shown. But I would get rid. I wouldn't keep him, just based on what I've seen. Bruno Fernandes. Woo-hoo-hoo. Bruno Fernandes. Wow. So this is going to be one that ruffles a few feathers. I'm just going to wait for the chat to start coming in here. I've not even seen a single keep yet. I just keep seeing sell. I've just seen one keep. Wow. People are really against Bruno at the minute. I would keep Bruno. And I know a lot of people are going to hate on me for that because Bruno's not a popular name right now, but what can I say? I think he's a good player. I think he's been really poor this season. I think his leadership has come under question for sure. And I have no excuses for how he's played recently. I don't. But I would keep him just because I think in a team where everyone else around him is upper level, I think Bruno can play at a high level. I would keep him, my opinion. So, Casemiro. Casemiro, for me, is a sell in the summer. As much as I highly rate him, I think he's a very good player. I think he's really important to United. Our win rate with Casemiro in the team is the highest out of any other midfielders. But, again, another player that's the wrong side of 30 and isn't getting any younger, and I think we need to invest in that department and a younger prospect. And he's on big wages. If Saudi Arabia, by the way, show with Ben Jacobs coming later on, really good Saudi links, and showing depth on Casemiro and Varane. If any offer comes in from Saudi for Casemiro, you have to take it. That's a get out of jail free card for us again. Signing Casemiro on a 5-year contract. I slated Jamie Carragher, by the way, when he had a pop about it, because last season Casemiro was so good. I was like, why is Carragher saying Casemiro was a mistake? Like, Casemiro is amazing. But this season you've seen And the system around him is a massive issue for this. He gets left on his own. Like I said, with the 7 and then 1, like he's gonna have to take people down. He's not got 10 legs. Like, the system doesn't benefit Casemiro whatsoever. I still think he's a quality player. I really do. I think technically he's good. I just think there's certain attributes that, you know, let him down at times. But overall, I think he's a quality player. The only problem is I think we just need to be moving on in a different direction. So Casemiro, I would get rid. Christian Eriksen, get rid. Like, there's just not even a question about that now. Seems like a lovely guy again. Just, you know, he needs to go and retire at Saudi FC, to be honest with you. Amari Forson, I'd keep him just because I don't know how good he is yet. Like, it'd be unfair for me to say get rid or 1 more year, because I generally don't know. I probably wouldn't even do him. Next up, we have Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo. That is the easiest keep I've ever said in my life. It's on the same level as Martinez. Keep. Easy keep. No point messing about. Scott McTominay. Get rid. Yes, he's won us 12 points this season. Yes, he can score off the bench. And does he give his all for the badge and for the shirt? Yep. I have nothing but respect for Scott McTominay. His attitude, his work rate, the way he conducts himself in interviews, the way he pushes himself. But ultimately, I don't think he's a good enough footballer to play for us at the top level on a weekly basis. He's got value now. You know, clubs will be massively interested in Scott. He's got a lot to offer. He generally has got a lot to offer to a lot of clubs out there. If you can get 35, 40 million for Scott in the summer, you've got to get rid. And people saying we can't get rid of them all, you're keeping 4 players. I literally said this is how brutal I'm being. It's just a game. Man United can't do this. I get it's not Football Manager, but I'm showing you how far off I feel like the squad is. And that's why I wanted to be brutal with it. Next up, we've got Mason Mount. Mason Mount, for me, I know a lot of you guys are going to say sell or 1 more year or whatever. Mason Mount, for me, is another easy keep. And the reason he's an easy keep is because, of course, yeah, injuries this season. I feel sorry for the guy. He's not going to get in the Euro squad when I think we've got the best chance of selling it. But, you know, Southgate, you know, we have got Southgate as manager, so there is a chance we don't. And he's got the number 7 at United. He wanted to prove himself, you know, got away from Chelsea where he had a bit of a rough time towards the end. And I thought he was going to come in and do really well. Injuries have massively hindered him. But behind the injury, there is a good player there, a young, good player. He's 24. You know, I think he might have just turned 25. That's the right age. He's got a good attitude. All managers have loved him that's worked with him. A lot of clubs are interested in the summer. Mason Mount is a keep. We've not even seen what he can offer yet, so he's got to be a keep. But a lot of you in the chat, to be fair, it was more mixed than what I thought. Somebody said Bruno's replacement could easily be. You know, people wanting Bruno to go, that it could be. Mason Mount, for me, thrives the most in the number 10 role. I would not be against seeing Mason Mount in the number 10, by the way. I'm not saying Bruno's completely undroppable. I'd like to see Mason Mount in the 10, to be honest. This is a good super chat. Mark Landry says, so few keeps and people think it's on the manager. You said it. You said it, and this is what I'm trying to kind of do with this. So, next up, I have Anthony. Sell. I'm sorry, but it's a sell. Like, I know he's young, and I know, you know, we spent a lot of money of him, but sometimes you've got to cut your losses. From what I've seen in a United shirt, and I've seen enough, he just can't cut it. He can't cut it where it needs to be, and that's at the top. That's at the top level. I don't see how he can reach the heights that he needs to heights. I've just not seen it. I've not seen it there with him, so I think it has to be a sell. And even Ten Hag basically, you know, said in his post-match press conference, he got asked why Anthony came on in the 99th minute. Was it fitness reasons? He said no, it's because of his form and his performances. You know, he rates Amari Forson and Ammad higher than Anthony right now, above the list. Anthony's bottom of the pile. Like, and he spent 80 million on him. So for that, I mean, by the way, there's nothing more than I'd love for Anthony to turn it around, by the way. I just haven't been able to see it with my own eyes, so that's why it'd be a sell. Alejandro Garnacho, and again, moves into the Kobbie Mainoo category of what easy keep, who we should be building the team around. Rasmus Højlund, the same, keeps. We have to build a team around these players. So all like Garnacho and Højlund, the Kobbie Mainoo, Sandro Martinez bracket, they have to be kept. Anthony Martial, to be honest, I've already sold him in my head. And again, this just shows I'm not player FC. I used to love Martial. I used to love him, but he has to go. He's been here probably 4 years too long, to be honest with you. He has to go. Martial has to go. Here we go. The last player. He's generally the last player on this list. I didn't leave it here for no reason. Marcus Rashford. This is the one. This is the one. That song, the one that we come out to Old Trafford is too. This is the one. Marcus Rashford. I'm going to give you time in the poll. It's time in the chat to have your say. Sell or keep, or 1 more year for Marcus Rashford. Sell, keep, or 1 more year. Well. I'm going to do my speech around it before I tell you what my decision is, because I thought about this all weekend, long and hard. Because it's really, once you move into the category of I want to sell that player in the summer, like, it's hard to kind of come back from that. Like I said, opinions can change, and sometimes people are too stubborn to admit that, and they can, you know, it can change by someone's performances. But what I would say with Rashford was, I was thinking about this in my head a little bit. I was stuck between 1 more year and sell. That's what I was stuck between. But that performance at the weekend tilted me over to the sell category. It did. If PSG came in this summer with 70 plus million for Rashford, I think I'd sell him. And that'll get clipped up now. It will get clipped up, and when he turns it around, like, you know, I'll be buzzing, because I want him to do well. He's a player I've loved. I've looked, like, my younger brothers look up to Marcus Rashford. Like, everybody wants to come from Manchester and be Marcus Rashford, make it through the academy, and go on and be a star of Man United. Everybody wants that. But Rashford, I said, you know, his form picked up after Belfast, doing a lot better. But this isn't even based on ability. This isn't based on ability, by the way, that I'm selling him, because I think he's got the ability to play for Manchester United. It's not based on ability. This is purely based on I'm exhausted through watching him walk around the pitch with a lack of effort. I'm exhausted from it. It is a privilege to put on that United shirt every time you get to. He's meant to be a United fan. Like, he is a United fan. We know that. He grew up with Wayne Rooney on the back of his top. Like, when he first came onto the scene, do you remember how buzzing he was when he was scoring them goals, and just as the character he was? And now he just looks unhappy on the pitch, and he's not putting in the work rate that he needs to be. So it's not based on ability. If it was based on ability, I think Rashford's more than good enough to play for Man United in the future, because I think he's a good player. It's based on the fact that his effort levels and him just not looking up to it. He doesn't look happy, to be honest with you. If he wants to go, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think with Rashford in the summer, a decision has to be made, because he's not playing well enough for 300 grand a week. He's not playing well enough for 200 grand a week. And it's just this level of consistency, it's not sustainable. But I think he's a good player. I think he's a top player. I really do. And people say he'll go somewhere else and he'll start playing well, and they'll say, "See, Beth, you said you would have sold him, but he's playing really well now." I have no doubts he'll go somewhere else and play well. He's a quality player, like he did last year with his celebration. It's all about up here. It's the mentality. When his head's in the game, he can score 30 goals for United in a season. But his head isn't in the game right now, and he's not putting in the work rate and the effort. So, for me, if I'm going to be brutally honest, this weekend, my brother, by the way, has said every week when I've asked him this question, no, I'd keep him, no, I'd keep him. He came with me to United. We went to the game together. He was back from uni. And he said, after that, I'd sell him. He went, and it might just be the anger from our reactions from the weekend, but people were walking out that stadium. I could hear it all around. People walking out saying, I'd sell Rashford in the summer if PSG came in. And the one thing I don't get is Rashford, why would you want fans, like, surely it hurts him and upsets him to see fans having that opinion. And the only reason that they're walking out with that opinion, not everyone, but a lot of people, is because of the effort levels. It's not because of he's missed a shot. He got no chances against Fulham. No one's complaining because he missed chances. There was no service. Like it always is for our number 9. It is a graveyard shift, but people are complaining because of ducking out of a tackle, of not, you know, putting your body on the line, not doing the work. That's why people are frustrated with it. So that's where I'm at, and I'm never afraid to say what I think on this channel, and I always will. If Rashford starts putting the work rate in, starts putting the effort in, and gives it his all, and starts doing well again, like, I would probably change my mind. Like I said, I can change my mind, but that's where I'm at right now. And for anyone out there who loves to say that I have, like, people will say that, like, we have a Rashford agenda, which is just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd, by the way, because I've always wanted Rashford to do well. I've always given the benefit of the doubt on this channel so many times. I've literally just gone through the whole squad of players and I've kept about 5. So it's not just Rashford I'm frustrated with. It's the whole squad. It needs a clear out and we need investment. There's players there that probably have potential, but a lot of them, it just shows where we're at and where the quality drop-off is, and that's why I don't think it should all be on the manager. But anyway, thank you everyone. I've gone way over here today. I'm so sorry. Key State says, if Varane took a pay cut, would you keep him? Probably, yeah, if he took a pay cut to like 150 grand to 150 grand a week, I would keep him because I think he's good enough. But yeah, ultimately that's where I'm at on the squad. And yeah, show went over, but I enjoyed it and I needed to kind of get that off my chest and I wanted to do it with you guys. But thank you everyone. All the love in the comments, all your opinions, really respect them. Thank you for all your lovely super chats as well and getting your opinions across. Don't always agree, but that's the whole part of this community. Please make sure you hit a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, have an amazing week. Have an amazing Monday. There's so many things. I mean, we've got a midweek game. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. Midweek game, everything on the line against Forest. Let's do it. But thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for the shows coming up later. And I will see you on the next one.